Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Different Beat. I'm Tim.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And today we're going to be discussing a game that we've been promising a review of for quite a while, but it was pretty sizable, so cut us some slack.
Yeah.
In The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Now, going into this game, I just want to say right off the bat, we're just going to jump right in here, that I have never actually played any of the Witcher games until this one. In fact, I had heard of them, I knew quite a bit about them and a lot of people who played them, but I myself had never actually invested the time into one. It was really only the motivation to do it, to cover it for this channel, that really got me into it. So I went into The Witcher 3, which already had an established lore and established characters and everything, completely blind. I will say, though, that it actually did a pretty good job in terms of a game with established lore, of sort of baby stepping you into it. There was a couple times where things were referenced, you had no idea what they were talking about, but that was not so much of the time. I actually think they did a really good job of sort of making the story more about what was happening now and just referencing back to the old stuff to set the foundation for relationships for people that they introduced as like your friends, people you had met in the past. So that was pretty cool. This game, and I know Beth has a lot to say about this one too, is a really interesting game in terms of it's like all the things that are the things that have carried throughout the series that they haven't changed sort of left me like, well, why? And that's primarily the combat, because I went back and I played some of 2, and the combat's pretty much exactly the same. I have never played the original Witcher, though. But I'm starting to see that it's moving through.
The Witcher 1 actually has very different combat from what I've been
told. So this is just a carryover from 2 then?
Yes, it is.
Interesting. I know you agree with me on this, that the actual combat in The Witcher is probably its weakest attribute.
Okay, I'm just going to put this out here right now. My contribution to this review is going to be relatively minor. And I'm going to say what that contribution is right now. Any part of this game that you play is utter dog shit.
Oh, wow.
Fucking trash. The combat sucks. Roach sucks. The
Roach is your horse, for those who don't know.
The movement system sucks. Everything that you do to play this game is awful. And I stand by that 100%. Now, the good thing are the story and the characters.
Yes.
And they are good. But the gameplay is so awful that I did not enjoy my time with it anytime I was controlling it, outside of choosing dialogue.
Okay, I want to dial this back for just a second to jump in here and say that, I do agree with you that the gameplay itself really suffers. This game is very unpolished in a lot of areas. It's very glitchy. There's a lot of character models that will just spawn up out of nowhere and levitate over the ground, completely frozen. The combat's choppy and not even really fun. It's I really think The Witcher would have been a better game in terms of combat if they gave you, a more depth in that combat. So essentially you have your strong attacks, your weak attacks, Witcher signs, and bombs and stuff. And while that sounds like a lot, it's really not. So when you first dive into the combat of The Witcher, it almost feels like, whoa, this is too much for 10 minutes. And then you realize, well, no, all of the layers of this onion that they've given me are pretty much useless. I can get through the entire game just squaring and triangling everything. Strong attack, weak attack, that's it. Roll out of the way to dodge, and that's pretty much all the game has to offer. I really think it would have benefited more from like chain combos, like an X, triangle X to perform a different, and I really don't want to say it should have been more like Devil May Cry combat, but it really should have been more Witchers are these legendary monster hunters, but yet you feel just so mediocre in combat, you know what I mean?
They tried to do a lot with story to kind of really step up that game to make even the combat feel important from a narrative perspective.
Yeah, but no, that's the thing it was very important from a narrative perspective. The idea of a Witcher is never downplayed. No. As a Witcher, you are exactly what the lore puts you out to be. You are a dying race, essentially. Even though you're not a race, you're still humans, but of mutated humans who have keener senses, better in combat, physically superior to most mortal humans. and generally lack a lot of empathy. I mean, most of the Witchers you meet, they have this nice little niche brotherhood thing going on where it's like they're cool with one another, but they don't really get along with most of society. But they're great at what they do, which is taking out the badass monsters that hunt off of, that hunt and prey people.
The gameplay is never able to live up to the narrative.
Yeah, it's like the lore makes you seem to be better as a Witcher than the actual demonstration of your combat abilities. Because, I mean, yes, you're Geralt, who is a great character, by the way. I mean, going into this, I had no idea Geralt of Rivia, anything about him. I will say that the biggest strength in this game is its narrative. It has a very, very good storyline. A lot of really good supporting characters. It's very well voice acted for the most part. There's some like garbage NPCs that they just hired nobodies to voice act that aren't very good. But all of the big important characters really carry emotion in their dialogue. So, I mean, that was fantastic. And one thing that I really appreciated too is not only how it was written, Geralt's relationship with Ciri, who's sort of the secondary main character of the game. The story is that you follow Ciri, you're looking for Ciri, and it sort of goes back and forth between Geralt and her until you guys meet up towards the end. But one thing I just really, really appreciated in this game was the graphics in the game weren't even all that good. A lot of textures were unfinished, but they definitely polished the crap out of like even subtle facial cues and body language. Because there's a lot of times when you're Geralt talking to Ciri that you can truly see adoration on Geralt's face. Like he's just looking at this person he really cares about. And it's not just the way the dialogue's being delivered, but even the look on his face. It was really, really awesome. It was a very engaging story, and one that, I mean, if you've ever had that sort of attachment to somebody that Geralt has to Ciri and that like father-daughter sort of bond, I don't know, it carries some weight. You're like, I really appreciate what they're doing here. The problem is once that little illusion is broken of narrative and you're back to playing the game again, it's almost like a completely different experience. Now, I'm not going to say that I thought all of the game in terms of content, combat, and control were, to quote my good friend Beth here, dog shit. But I will say they were not good. It definitely didn't live up to the narrative of the game. This game, I actually think, would have been better, and I know it wouldn't even be a Witcher game if it was this, but the quality of the story versus the quality of the gameplay, really, they're so out of balance with one another that this game is like one of those things I think would have been made better had it been more of a visual narrative like the Telltale games, like Walking Dead series or something. Something that you interact with minimally, but get to experience this great story. Now, if they wanted to do it like an interactive graphic novel like that, would have been a great game. I'd look forward to the next one. But the problem is that's not the case. And so you get this good story, some good characters, but the game's not 80 hours because of its narrative. It's 80 hours because of its gameplay and all the filler that goes into that gameplay. And that's another tangent I want to dive in on here. I played every bit of content that game had to offer. Every side quest, every single Witcher contract, every single treasure hunt, all of it. I mean, I got 100% completion for the sake of everything you could do. My quest log was completely filled out. So the problem with that is 90% of that content that wasn't story related wasn't gratifying in any way. And I found that to be really disappointing because when you look at the scope of the game and you play it and you get in it, you first get to your world map and you see how huge it is and there's stuff everywhere and you're like, wow, there is so much this game has to offer. It's really impressive, especially because it's the first PS4 game of this caliber that I've played this gen.
This magnitude.
Yeah, I guess that's a better word. Magnitude. Yes, it was a huge game. But the problem is I went into it expecting the same sort of adventure, the same sort of spelunking, monster killing, loot collecting as something like Skyrim, for example, where you come across things on the map and they're not just like a tree with a treasure chest sticking out of the ground, but I was thinking they'd be more like runes that you could explore like in an Elder Scrolls game, or like a vault you could explore like in a Fallout game. Something that was like, hey, what's this hole in the ground? And then you find the hole in the ground is this actually big complex thing with like cool loot and awesome monsters. But that wasn't it at all. Every single portion of the map, essentially everything on the map, was either a group of guys standing next to a treasure chest, a strong monster standing next to a treasure chest, or a cave that you went into and 3 ghosts were standing by a treasure chest. That was really the entire side quest of the game. It really was. They were all really shallow. There wasn't any great value that it had. It's like the filler in that game is exactly that. It's filler. It doesn't enrich the game in any way, which is sad because that seems like such a missed potential here.
Well, I'm going to say 3 things back to back here, and this is actually going to be my last word on Witcher 3. I didn't go in with that expectation, so that really wasn't a disappointment for me. So that wasn't an issue. My second thing is, I'm not going to say any more positive things about the game because everything I could say is a spoiler, and there are some really great narrative things in there. But if you haven't got to them yet, I don't want to spoil them because they are great. CD Projekt Red did a really good job with it. The last thing I want to say, and it is the single best thing about the game, is the developer. CD Projekt Red, just like watching them interact with their community, like the first thing you do when you open up this game is you see a little red card in it, and it's just a little message from CD Projekt Red telling you about the DLC they're giving you, how much they want you to enjoy, and how much they're grateful for you being
supporting their
game. And to see that kind of outreach from a developer in this day and age, especially in the face of like seeing certain things come out of other developers like the Aliens Colonial Marines fiasco, and that's still ongoing, to see CD Projekt Red be so utterly amazing and so connected with their fan base, even if I didn't enjoy their game, made me utterly respect and love this developer and actually want to play more of their content and give it a shot, because just seeing it really wowed me. So just seeing them was the best part of Witcher 3 for me.
And it's even more than that, beyond that little red card you're talking about. The value that the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt provides in terms of just a package really is a step up from what's been the norm lately. It seems like anymore you go and you buy a $60 game, you open it up, there's not even a booklet anymore. You just get like a little insert that has a link to a website where you can look at the interactive guide. But that's it. I mean, you just paid $60 for a disc and everything on that disc, and that is it. This was really kind of cool because when my wife brought it home for me, I opened it up. There's this big map in there. There's a soundtrack. There's that, letter from the developer essentially, thanking you and being like, we want to hear back. We want your feedback. Thank you for playing this game. So it's like things that other games would charge you for in like a special edition, like the soundtrack and the world map and stuff, they just give you in the $60 package. And that was really something because you already know this game, because of its size, is already an expensive undertaking to develop, but then they're just giving you stuff on top of it. But that's just so different because nowadays it seems like you're paying $60 for any game, regardless of how big it is, and it's rare anymore to get extra content in games, especially that tangible physical stuff. It just seems like a lot of developers have sort of moved past that. That's sort of a bygone era in games, those extra goodies.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. I really liked that. And plus, the addition of just even the simple little cardboard sleeve and everything. It's just a nice package. Overall, I'm not going to say The Witcher is a bad game because it's not. It's just its problem is a horrific imbalance. It's really an unfortunate deformity than it is making necessarily saying it's a bad game. Because if you go through and you play The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and you stick to the storyline, and even if you want to do like the side quests like the Witcher hunts, I actually found the Witcher hunts fun because it was just you against a powerful monster, and I appreciated that. It was like, all gimmicks aside, you're helping people out, you can barter for gold and all that stuff, and then go out and kill this monster. And it's cool because every Witcher contract is unique, and it unlocks a unique bestiary in your journal, which, I like that sort of weird stuff. I like reading about all the mythological creatures, and the cockatrices and the basilisks and the werewolves and all that stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. But that's really where the bulk of the content is. So if you get in here and you're like, I'm going to go and cover the entire map, I mean, good on you. That's what I did. But doing that will reward you with nothing. And all it will do is water down what is going to be a great experience if you just play right through the game. And I know that's probably not what the developer intended, but unfortunately that's how it came out. But I mean, I'm not going to get crap on it for that because, again, the narrative, the storyline, the characters are great. Geralt of Rivia, awesome character. I knew nothing about him going into this. I think he's very well written. He's a kind-hearted character. And that's the other thing I like about Geralt, too, is like, even though you get dialogue options that range anywhere from sympathetic to like kind of cold, even when Geralt's being cold, he's still kind of like a nice cold. It's weird. And I really like how even though he's this legendary, known throughout the land's famous Witcher, he's still humble. He's really good at talking to your everyday commoner. You know, he doesn't have this air of arrogance and like, filthy peasant. You know, he's a kind-hearted soul, and you can get that through the game. And I really appreciate that, because I like those sorts of heroes they're these awesome characters, but they haven't, you know, gotten too big for their britches, essentially, you know. So I really like it. So, I mean, again, I could go on and on about how good the game was. I got a really great ending. I'm super happy with the ending I got. I don't want to spoil anything. I will say, though, to exercise caution, there was a point in that game, in one of the first story elements, where I was like, I am clearly doing the right thing here, and wiped out everybody. So, that's one of the things you got to be careful of. That game will definitely sucker punch you right in the spleen when you're not looking, if you think you're doing the right thing. So multiple saves. If you're one of those people who's anal about getting the best possible ending, like that's me in every game with multiple endings, I will do what I have to do to ensure that first and foremost I get the perfect ending. Then if I go back and play it again, I don't care. I'll just experiment and get whatever. But this is one of those games I needed to revert back a few times and be like, whoa, shit, I gotta redo that segment, because that did not go how I planned at all. So be prepared for some of that if you're like me. Otherwise, just enjoy it. You'll like the characters. All in all, pretty good game. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in here, and I'm going to say, you know, when it comes to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, okay, overall, I'm going to give it a 3.5 stars. If you just play the storyline and skip all the rest, 4, but everything included, 3.5, because it waters it down quite a bit.
Me, I'm going to give it, I hammered it pretty hard with the gameplay segment, but there's 3, for it being a CD Projekt Red game, and me being totally in love with this developer, Ciri's
a great character.
And Triss. As much as I said the game's awful and everything, I'm still going to give it like a 2.5 stars, even a 3, because the narrative is so good, and I love Ciri, and I love Triss.
I love Geralt.
And Geralt's good too.
Yeah.
And like, I'm usually extra harsh on male characters, and I love Geralt. I just don't like him as much as Ciri and Triss.
Yeah.
2.5, 3 even just for Ciri, Triss, and even Yennefer, who's good at times. I didn't like her as much as Triss or Ciri.
Yes, I was more of a Yennefer fan myself.
But it's like, me personally, in the end, I'll probably be going to like fanfiction.net and shipping Yennefer and Triss together. So what do I know?
That'd be hot, actually. Anyway, be sure to tune in for our next review. Our next video we'll be posting up next week is going to be our Destiny House of Wolves review. Please check that out. You will be surprised, I promise you.